What's going on, Dolph fans? It is your boy Dillon, and it's an early morning for me here out on the West Coast. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting around and I was reading this article from Yahoo Sports. Cody Benjamin is who wrote it, and it's an article about, things that in particular, it's about the quarterback position and, but things that I have talked about in the past, things that we've discussed. And, but I was reading it and decided to, make a video because I wanted to present you guys with the perspective of this writer, again, ahead of time, just making it clear that this is, this particular writer's opinions, for the most part, I definitely agree with these things, and again, are things that I have mentioned before and talked about before in the past. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And the article is, the title is, Why the Dolphins Should Stick with Ryan Fitzpatrick Over Tua Tagovailoa Ahead of the Playoffs. Brian Flores wasted no time declaring Tua Tagovailoa his starting quarterback following Saturday's important win over the Las Vegas Raiders, in which Tagovailoa's benching injected life into the Miami Dolphins, marking the start of the team's comeback. It was no surprise. The coach has been running an unofficial quarterback rotation since first making the abrupt decision to turn the keys over to Tua, even going so far as to call Ryan Fitzpatrick a relief pitcher over the weekend. But here's the bigger question. Is he doing the right thing? We're not here to question Flores' methods up to this point, however unorthodox they may be. Pause for just a quick second. I really hate anytime somebody says that shit. Oh, we're not here to question him. Why? No, that's actually, especially when it comes from people in the media. Because that's actually your job. Your job is to question these people and to, point out things that are weird or suspicious, or if you think they're doing things wrong, etc., etc. But of course there's this whole mentality, well, you just gotta fucking buy in and believe the bullshit they sell you, even if it is bullshit, right? Like, so, obviously I don't play that game. I question, and, I bring up things, relevant, important concerns, regardless of, whether or not people are going to get fucking butthurt about it. Like, sorry, there are things that need to be addressed, and if it hurts your feelings, well, I mean, maybe you should, like, I don't know, not be so, worked up over just truth and reality and stuff like that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell people. Like, because I don't try to be, I don't try to be an asshole to people, but I'm not going to be, gaslit into thinking that I'm in the wrong because I'm trying to convince people of reality, of facts, of truths, and they choose to ignore it, right? Like, if people want to ignore the facts and the reality of things, that's on them, and I can't do anything to change that. But anyway, for me though, no, I'm absolutely gonna question. Anyway, I mean, like, just because he was given the job doesn't make him fucking a saint, doesn't make him the fucking know-all, or end-all be-all. Like, he still has to prove it just like anybody else. He still has to fucking put a product out there, right? Anyway, and he has to prove over a period of time that he can make the appropriate and correct decisions. Anyway, and, again, if I'm keeping it real, I don't personally believe that the course and path that they have decided to take is the correct one. And furthermore, I think that the results from this season are ultimately going to prove more of an aberration. I hope I'm wrong about that, but with the data that I have and the evaluation that I do based off of that data, I believe that there are, extenuating circumstances that wouldn't normally be present, i.e. COVID and injuries, to the extent that that the NFL has experienced injuries, right? Like, there's almost never, and I mean, I can't ever remember there being a time where they've been this serious in this large a quantity, this consistent, etc., right? So all these different things. Anyway, you get the point. Moving on. Both Tagovailoa and Fitzpatrick have appeared content, dare we say jovial, about swapping roles lately. And well, we know that Ryan Fitzpatrick actually, at least when it first happened, didn't feel that way because he told us that himself. And the Dolphins are 10-5 with a 70% chance of making the playoffs as a result. There's a difference, however, between playing the hot hand in the regular season and doing the same in the postseason. It's one thing to rely on Fitzpatrick for fourth quarter magic against the Raiders and Broncos. It's another to assume there will even be opportunities for late game salvation when you're playing the Chiefs or the Bills in mid-January. That's why it makes all the sense in the world for Flores to do what he hasn't done since week 6, name Fitzpatrick the starter. And again, I told you guys, for me, I don't think it made sense to put him in at all. I don't think that, and he gets more into this in his article, but I don't think Tua's done anything special. I'm sorry. I know, like, people want to crucify me for that because, well, he's, you know, he's our guy, and this is the dude that the fucking organization said that we all have to believe in, and they went and spent, you know, a 5th round pick on him, and they tanked last season so that way they could go get him. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't have to believe it just because they fucking tell me it. And the reality is he has not played like a superstar. He just hasn't. And the evidence is there. You know, and so, anyway, I think, you know, and then of course he's got the ankle injury, the hand injury. Like, I don't want him getting injured, right? Like, there are a number of reasons it didn't make sense because the Dolphins were winning. Fitzpatrick was playing well. I really think that Fitzpatrick could do everything that Tua's done, but actually do more because he's a veteran, because he's used to playing in the NFL at this point. He knows NFL defenses. He knows this offense really well, right? So I unquestionably thought that the smartest decision would just be sit Tua the entire year, let him get adjusted to the NFL, especially during a season that is fucked up like we've never seen before because of COVID, etc., etc. Let him learn the playbook fully. Let him learn behind the tutelage of Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Ryan Fitzpatrick can do everything you need him to do. He can do everything that Tua's done. And probably even more, actually. Anyway, let's start with the obvious. It's in almost every appearance, the 38-year-old gunslinger has both looked and played better than his rookie counterpart. This was evidenced immediately in Saturday's affair, in which Fitzpatrick instantly brought a downfield element to Miami's offense, seemingly unshackled coordinator Chan Gailey's playbook, and preserved Miami's playoff life. But it's also been apparent for months. I told you, it was Fitzpatrick that came in and fucking won that game. I mean, you can give credit to the coaching staff, but it's just more evidence to prove that they're just full of fucking shit. And that the reasons that they're giving for putting him in and stubbornly, you know, going back to him even though he's not performing and, you know, so on and so forth, and we're about to make the playoffs, the reasons that he's the best, you know, chance we have is bullshit. It's bullshit. If they really thought that, they wouldn't keep benching the dude. They would fucking let him fucking, you know, battle it out in the fourth quarter to see if he's that kind of guy, because that's who they say he is, right? Anyway, but it's also been apparent for months. It's not that Tua has been bad, it's just that Fitzpatrick has clearly been the better option, which is frankly undeniable. But, and as I've said on multiple occasions, I'm not quite so sure I would go as far as to say that he's overall played bad. I think he definitely has had moments. He's had flashes. He's showed some of that potential, but he's also had some terrible decisions. He's just gotten super, super lucky. He's 10-2 right now in touchdown to interception ratio. 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. But that shouldn't be the case. He has at least as many would-be interceptions as he does touchdowns. So, you know, he's just gotten exceptionally lucky. But you know, in other stats, Ryan Fitzpatrick is clearly better. Take a look at their 2020 numbers. So, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he has been in 9 games with 7 starts, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 7.8 yards per attempt, a 68.5 completion percentage, and has a sack percentage of 5. Tua Tagovailoa has the same number of games, 9, 1 more starts than Fitzpatrick at 8, has 3 less touchdowns with 10, but has 6 less interceptions with 2. So he's 10-2 to Fitzpatrick's 13-8. But again, and Fitzpatrick does not, he's got some would-be interceptions as well, to be fair, but certainly not nearly as many as fucking Tua does. And he actually is pretty savvy when it comes to knowing when to take those risks and to, you know, throw it up for, let's say, Devontae Parker, who has a good chance of fucking coming down with it, right? Anyway, Tua's yards per attempt, though, is 6.3 to Fitzpatrick's 7.8. Completion percentage is 65.1. Fitzpatrick's is 68.5. And sack percentage, Ryan Fitzpatrick is at 5, as I mentioned. Tua is at 7.6. Okay, if you want to count team records for and against the quarterbacks, Tagovailoa has a technical edge since Miami has gone 6-2 in his starts compared to 4-3 with Fitzpatrick. But even that category is essentially a wash considering Fitzpatrick led Saturday's comeback. Otherwise, the quarterback room's elder statesman has been better in every area except for interceptions. He's thrown more touchdowns despite starting 1 less game. He's pushed the ball downfield. He's been more accurate, and he's taken fewer sacks. Tagovailoa's touchdown to interception ratio is respectable, but 10 touchdowns in almost 9 full games speaks to his seemingly constrained role under center, which is something I mentioned before. It doesn't, not just the simple fact that they've benched him twice now for not playing particularly great, and you know, seemingly not trusting him in the biggest moments of the game when you need your so-called superstar quarterback to deliver the game for you. But also, it does seem like the offense is actually pretty constrained with him under center and as the quarterback. And that makes sense because he's a rookie and he needs to get adjusted to the NFL and the looks that defenses are going to give him and fully learn the playbook. You know, it just kind of comes along with the territory. That's why they should have redshirted him. Anyway, whatever. So too does his bottom tier yards per attempt mark, which ranks 30th among all quarterbacks. That's Tua Tagovailoa's mark. Behind even struggling vets like Cam Newton and Gardner Minshew. Either the Dolphins want him to be a non-risk-taking game manager, or Tagovailoa can't help but box himself in that way. So, I mean, there's some potential troubling, you know, trends that could come from that if that was to continue. But I mean, if they really wanted a, you know, first of all, they do not want a non-risk-taking game manager. That's not why they drafted Tua Tagovailoa. They drafted Tua so he could be the superstar fucking franchise guy that fucking, you know, balls out and fucking has explosive plays and wins us fucking games all by his fucking lonesome. That's what they expect him to do. They expect him to be fucking Superman. Okay? But if they did want a non-risk-taking game manager, they could have easily stuck with Ryan Tannehill. I think he's more than just, you know, a game manager, to be honest with you. But they could have stuck with Ryan Tannehill. Anyway, let's see, I already read it. The issue moving forward is twofold. First, Tagovailoa hasn't even been efficient enough to warrant praise as some kind of elite safe point guard. His 65.1 completion percentage ranks 23rd in the NFL. Fitzpatrick ranks number 8, and he almost takes enough bad sacks to offset his low interception totals, which is true, but also, again, and literally, I don't hear anybody talk about this. I'm the only one that really ever says it from what I can tell, but it doesn't, add in the context of his would-be interceptions. And it's not just, some of them, to be fair, you know, are tipped balls. There were a couple of them that were tipped, but a bunch of them, at least a handful of them, he threw it literally right to the fucking defender. You know, 2 or 3 of them, the defender just couldn't grip it. You know, 1 or 2 of them, it happened to just like go straight through a defender's hands. A couple of them got called back by fucking penalty. The dude is like unreasonably lucky. And, you know, again, one thing that I fear is that luck is going to run out. I mean, he's gotten 2 interceptions now officially, but I fear that that luck is gonna run out and it's gonna catch up to him. Anyway, and you know, look, again, one of the biggest concerns though is injury, right? He is taking more sacks than Fitzpatrick does or would, right? In part because he's a rookie and doesn't know the playbook, etc., etc. But, I mean, and he is nursing a couple injuries. And if they stubbornly, persistently decide they're going to keep putting him in the game, well, there's a high probability that at some point he's going to get hurt. Anyway, so hopefully none of those things happen, but, you know, we'll see. Even at his best, he's not been a difference-making downfield passer, a near necessity in today's NFL, and even more so in the playoffs. Blame it on shaky protection or a banged-up receiving core if you wish, but why does Fitzpatrick so often seem immune to those issues? Second, it's fine if the Dolphins have earned 10 wins banking on conservative quarterback play and high-scoring defense, but if they think that formula will guarantee a legitimate postseason run, they're probably mistaken. Their D, as a whole, has not been a world beater. The unit is feisty, no doubt, but still ranks 20th in total yards allowed per game, 19th against the pass, 17th against the run. Flores can joke all he wants about reserving Fitzpatrick for relief duty, in which he's thrived, but if Miami carries its current strategy into a playoff game against the Chiefs or the Bills or the Titans, it won't have 45 plus minutes to waste on keeping it close with Tua. Now, to be fair, to add further context that isn't in there, they are one of the better teams on like third down, and they're one of the better scoring defenses. That is true. Again, to add even more context, I think that has, personally, from my evaluation of things, that has a lot to do with the quality of opponent that they've played, which has a lot to do with the injuries and COVID, etc., etc. So I think that the Dolphins this year have lucked out in a lot of ways and have had a bit of a handicap since they did get to enjoy being one of the healthier teams in the league and got to take advantage of even good opponents who are teams that would otherwise be really good opponents, tough opponents, like the one I bring up most often because it's the one that sticks out most is the 49ers, right? Like, the Dolphins are overperforming because of extenuating circumstances that don't normally exist in an NFL season, right? And so, yes, there are some, and, you know, like Xavier Howard leads the league in interceptions. That is also true, right? Like, so again, like he mentioned, they are feisty for sure, and they have shown some good things, but as I have mentioned, the Dolphins are not ready for the playoffs. They're not a 10-5 team. They're a 10-5 team this year because of those extenuating circumstances and because of the flashes, right? And because of the potential that this team has, right? They do have a ton of boom potential, but they also have a ton of bust potential. It just so happens that because of the formula that we have this particular season, right, the boom potential has been able to show. But they're not going to be able to keep up with teams like the Chiefs or the Bills or the Titans in the postseason. They're not going to be able to. And if they do make it, if they do manage to make it into the postseason, which is not a guarantee, then they, I mean, I can't see them making it past the first round, personally. I just can't. And look, this week, you know, the Bills, my base instinct is that we're going to lose. It's a road game. We have to go play in Buffalo, and they are one of the best teams in the league, hands down. They just are. And, you know, people can hate that as much as they want, but it's the truth. And I think that the Dolphins could have a chance if they played backups, But I don't think that they're going to do that because they're a very competitive team. They have very competitive players, and also they are playing for the number 2 seed, which does have implications. They don't get a first round bye anymore, but it does give them some home field advantage in the playoffs, at least early on, which, you know, could be huge, right? So, you know, in other words, they will get to play at home as opposed to having to play on the road, right? Depending on how the seeding lines up. The higher seeds, obviously, it used to be the top 2 seeds would get a first round bye. This year, it's just the top 1 seed from each conference gets a bye. But the subsequent seeding does then play a role and a factor in determining who gets home field advantage. So they do have shit to play for this week. So, you know, my guess is that we are going to get the full, you know, full force Bills. We're going to get their starters. They're going to come out and they're going to play a legit game. And I'm pretty sure they're going to kick our ass. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty convincing. You know, and if they do, you know, if the Dolphins lose this game against the Bills, maybe they don't make it into the playoffs because, you know, some things could happen and they might not make it in, right? But if they do make it in the playoffs, I really don't think that they're going to be able to play any of those teams and come out victorious. I just don't think, because I don't think that they're that good. I don't think that they're a playoff team. I don't think that they're a 10-5 team. You know, I mean, and the way that they can prove me wrong in that is do it again next year and the year after that. But the data that I have, to me, my evaluation is they're not there yet, at the very least, and that they are absolutely overperforming based off of, you know, extenuating circumstances that wouldn't otherwise be present. Anyway, so that's about it anyway. I think you get the idea. My phone actually just died, so I can't read you the rest of the article, unfortunately. That just is what it is, and that did just happen. But you guys get the point anyway. I don't think there's really any need to carry on with the rest of the article. It really just, you know, continues on to make the point that at the end of the day, Ryan Fitzpatrick really does give them the best opportunity. And I think that, you know, if the Dolphins do make it to the playoffs, should they put Ryan Fitzpatrick in, he would give them the best opportunity to come away with an upset win against a team like the Titans or the Chiefs or the Bills. But if they do put Tua in, I'm just not convinced that he's ready to handle that situation. Or the team as a whole, right? It's not just him. Obviously, there are, you know, 10 other people on the field with him at, you know, any given time, right? So to be fair there, but I just don't think he and this team are ready. And what the author was saying in that article is, you know, if they do want to get out of the first round, if they want to get out of the wild card round and actually make a legitimate push in the playoffs, they're not going to have 3 quarters of time to waste seeing if Tua can handle it. And I think the evidence has been pretty clear up to this point that he's not that kind of quarterback yet. He's not that elite quarterback that we're hoping for him to be yet. And that's not, again, to be clear, that's not really a knock on him. It's not really, you know, it's not really his fault. They fucking made the decision. They threw him into the fucking fire. You know, he's a rookie. Like, it's not his fault. It's not to say that he won't ever be that superstar quarterback. The reality is, though, he's not there right now, and nor is this Dolphins team there right now. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I did just want to talk about that because I did find it to be fascinating. And, you know, sometimes it helps to, you know, give other people's perspectives and opinions, as well as sometimes it's difficult for me to, you know, articulate precisely what I'm thinking in my videos you know, because it is pretty off the cuff and I have to like remember all the things that I'm saying and so, or that I was thinking about and so on and so forth. So anyway, I like to do that. I wanted to give this to you guys, and yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. You know, this Bills game is going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes. Again, I personally think that it's going to end up being a loss. We'll see if they surprise. And then, you know, we'll see if the Dolphins can make it into the playoffs or not. And then, you know, go from there. If they make it to the playoffs, then we'll evaluate their performance in the playoffs. If they don't, then we'll evaluate their season once it's over, right? Etc., etc. So one step at a time. We'll see how things go. First, we have to wait and see how Sunday plays out, what happens against the Bills, and then obviously what happens with the other games and the other teams around the league to determine whether or not we make it, etc., etc. And then we'll go from there. All right, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And, of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.